Let me ask you, when you walk into a room, do you immediately zero into the imperfections? Or maybe you are unsatisfied with yourself, others, or life in general. You probably might drive other people crazy with your fussiness and how you focus on minor details while ignoring all the hard work that has gone into an otherwise beautiful piece. So, is perfectionism good or bad? Is it a quality necessary to succeed for every high achiever and leader? Let's find out. Have you already subscribed to my channel? Not yet? Click this bell button and get notified every time a new episode arrives. I'm Maria Neizvestnaya, founder of Executive Craft, and welcome to my channel, a place for heart-centered leaders. As leadership and executive coach, I'm passionate about emotional intelligence, mindfulness, and transformational leadership training. My clients gain confidence, increase influence, and become fully empowered. Are you ready to elevate your leadership? It's draining to constantly find fault in things, especially in yourself. I'm too familiar with this negative voice, which is constant, distracting. It keeps you disconnected from the beauty of the present moment. The term perfectionism is closely related to the idea of control. Control, in turn, can have both positive and unfavorable connotations. Manage, regulate, oversee, drive, influence, master, and lead are all the synonyms with control, and each would be considered a positive leadership trait. On the flip side of the coin, rule, hinder, command, dominate, and manipulate also correspond to control, though they can hardly be considered positive. Either way, control is at the core of perfectionism, and when it dominates every aspect of your life, stress, anxiety, unfulfilling relationships, and an unhealthy view of yourself are not far behind. Some researchers argue that all forms of perfectionism are maladaptive or have negative impacts on the person. Most, however, categorize perfectionism into two different categories: adaptive and maladaptive. In other words, maladaptive perfectionism can be categorized by perfectionism that gets in the way of leading a successful and happy life. Obsession with control is a hallmark of maladaptive perfectionism, a compulsive form of perfectionism that is ill-suited and is not a positive leadership characteristic. On the other hand, self-motivation and ambition are extremely positive leadership traits. But there is a limit. When you cross it, you can have some very negative consequences. The pursuit of excellence, growth, and mastery can be attained by virtually anyone. Being driven by self-actualization is a rewarding experience. Adaptive perfectionism can be a drive for achievement. Maladaptive perfectionism stems from fear. It can be painful when you are constantly dissatisfied and scared. Maladaptive perfectionism is linked to anxiety, depression, problems in interpersonal relationships, eating disorders, and other mental health challenges. Now, how do you discern one from the other? Here are three characteristics of maladaptive perfectionism and how to address them. Number one, choosing perfection versus progress. You procrastinate and move at a snail's pace, paying attention to insignificant details instead of launching, testing, getting feedback, and moving forward. You dissect your photo shoot or your recording of your presentation and want to crawl under a warm blanket and hibernate till 2022. You proofread your email 50 times over. In the meantime, other tasks are put on hold, sending your anxiety spiraling. If this describes you, perfectionism is standing in your way. Doubt and anxiety force you into a downward spiral. You may remember that we talked about growth mindset in the previous episode. Well, choosing perfection over progress is the opposite of growth mindset. However, you rationalize not completing a task or advancing professionally. You are paying a high price with inactivity than you would if you act and make mistakes. Mathematically, you have a 50% chance of success if you act. I like to give my coaching clients the example of Tom Hanks' character in the movie The Terminal. In this movie, he's stuck in the airport and can't leave unless he gets a stamp on his passport. At the time when I watched this movie, the reason seemed like fiction, but in 2020 this could probably happen. Basically, due to events outside of his control, his passport is no longer valid and he can't leave JFK International Airport. Every day he goes to the same US customs officer and requests a stamp, but then gets denied. Finally, on his 5th attempt, the officer asks him why he keeps coming back. His reply is golden. He says that each time there is a 50% probability of a successful outcome. It's true, each new moment has its own new potential. You need to play the game to win. Choose progress over perfection and notice what happens. As a heart-centered leader, you want to make a positive impact and serve others. Making an impact and getting results is much more rewarding than wallowing in the fear of being judged for being imperfect. Second, unrealistic expectations of yourself. On the other side of perfectionism and control is acceptance. Kind acceptance towards yourself is not a passive stance. Carl Rogers, a humanistic psychologist, said, "The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I change." It's easier said than done though. What's easiest is staying in the vicious cycle of setting unrealistic expectations followed by self-judgment, followed by pushing yourself towards further unrealistic expectations. This is familiar, but it's not healthy. Instead, meet yourself where you are with kindness and respect and move from that place one step at a time. Forcing yourself can only take you so far. You pay a high toll when you're constantly unsatisfied with yourself. It will cost you energy, motivation, fulfillment, and positive self-evaluation. Recognize and respect your limits. Your growth happens around your limits, not when you mindlessly push yourself beyond your limits. When you are starting to lift weights, you don't start with 250 pounds, hopefully. Do that and you'll probably injure yourself and never want to go to the gym ever again. You also wouldn't expect to see visible results in the mirror just after the first day. There is an art and science to weight training. It takes time, you will make mistakes, you will forget the details, and you will be feeling vulnerable. And this is inevitable. The same applies to other aspects of life. All huge breakthroughs are in fact a result of small, consistent, everyday actions, one step at a time. Training patience, kindness, and curiosity towards yourself is imperative for growth. Here is another quote by Carl Rogers. "When I look at the sunset, I don't find myself saying, 'Soften the orange a bit on the right-hand corner.' I don't try to control a sunset. I watch it with awe as it unfolds." Last but not least, unrealistic expectations of others, which is linked to unrealistic expectations of yourself. Unrealistic and negative evaluations of others is another facet of maladaptive perfectionism. It leads to disconnect and serious struggles in personal relationships. Leadership is about relationship mastery. It's impossible to foster relationships in a perfectionism framework. You will be constantly frustrated with the lack of progress in others. You'll lose your patience and you will want to let go of half of your team every other day. I've been there, and believe me, it's toxic. When you are in this toxic pattern, you miss the wins because you're so focused on what's not working and what needs to be improved. You will struggle balancing structure and spontaneity, work and play, celebrating milestones and keeping your team accountable while raising the bar. Ask yourself, are you the type of leader that you'd want to work for when things aren't going well? How you treat others during trying times speak volumes about you. The practice of acknowledgement is powerful if it comes from a place of authenticity and consistent behavior. It wouldn't work if you give off dissatisfaction 90% of the time while seldomly recognizing your team. Remember, emotions are contagious. Humans don't perform well in a fearful environment where they feel unaccepted and constantly judged. When you create a true culture of acknowledgement and accountability instead of a culture of maladaptive perfectionism, you build a high-performing team that is aligned with your vision. You are unlocking the power of compassion. Finally, my favorite practice to address maladaptive perfectionism is wabi-sabi, the Japanese aesthetics tradition. Unlike perfectionism, that comes from the Latin to finish or to bring to the end, that philosophy acknowledges the following principles. Nothing lasts, nothing is finished, and nothing is perfect. It celebrates the beauty of imperfection. Now, how is your inner perfectionist reacting to these fine principles? Mine is not happy and rolling its eyes. Give them a big hug. To learn more about the qualities needed to train your mindset as a heart-centered leader, sign up for my free 1-hour training, How to Succeed as an Overgiver Without Becoming Resentful or Losing the Passion for Your Work. Go to executivecraft.com and join the free webinar. If you are in a leadership position and want to grow as a leader and expand your mindset, I invite you to connect and book a free one-on-one discovery call with me. Let's talk about the specifics of your situation and figure out what are the next steps that can take you closer to your goals and aspirations. To apply for the call, click on the link in the description or go to executivecraft.com/apply and choose the time in my schedule that works for you. Have you enjoyed this episode? Please give it a like and share it with other heart-centered leaders. And hit this bell button if you have not subscribed already. Stay safe and be well. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye. Oh my god, I can't imagine. I'm literally channeling my inner Mary Poppins. Yes, it's like Soviet version of Mary Poppins. She was Lady Perfection. Lady of Perfection. Okay, whatever, I need to Google this. Oh, this is so funny. How did I even choose this outfit? It just matches perfectly. Mary Poppins. Okay, here we go.